David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. The DC show was just a couple of weeks ago, and the folks from Opus 88 were there with a table, which was nice to see. I don't recall them making the trip from Taiwan to come over to the show before. Maybe they have, but it was the first time I remember seeing them. But anyways, it was good to see them there. And Kelly, who is the director of Opus 88, was kind enough to provide me with a pen for review. And it's one from them which I had previously not had the opportunity to test out. And that would be the Harmony. So what I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of this intriguing offering, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about it. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. Thanks again go out to Opus 88 for providing this pen for review. The Harmony is available in two finishes. There is the gray and red marble. That model has a striking blend of muted grays and vibrant reds with rose gold accents. And then there is the brown marble, which has a deep swirling pattern of warm browns, again with the rose gold plated trim. And the finish I have to share with you today is the brown marble. There's some interesting features of this pen. It's made from resin with rose gold plated trim. I like the choice of rose gold rather than the standard yellow gold. I feel the rose gold matches better with the brown hues of this pen. The cap and barrel are made from a nice warm brown marbled resin. The resin has a great deal of pearlescence, which really shines when you twist this pen. This is one of those resins which will provide a different look on every pen, so your pearlescence mileage can vary, but it is a nice look. I like that the material has a bit of life and motion to it, as opposed to just being flat. Okay, let's take a look at the parts and features of this pearlescent pen. The finial is black, which I feel complements the brown nicely. On the very top, there is a rose gold plated insert engraved with the Harmony. Harmony being the name of this offering. Below that, we have the clip. This is an interesting clip style. It's a bit bowed and has a rather large hammerhead on the end. Now, for the life of me, my research could not find what that specific part of a clip is called, or if it even has a name. So if you know the name of that portion of the clip and what it is called, then leave a comment below and enlighten us. The cap angles up a bit, with the thickest portion of the cap being right about here, and then it tapers down slightly until you reach the cap band. On the band, it's engraved with the company name, Opus 88. After that, there is a medium-sized step down to the barrel, which angles down very slightly until about here, where the rate of decline increases until you reach the very end, which is again black, and the very end is flat. The cap twists off with a little over 2 rotations, and underneath we have a Jowo No. 6 stainless steel nib. This nib is available in either fine, medium, or broad. And here's a look at the plastic feed. I think this pen has been inked before, so the feed has a little bit of a sheen on it. The section is a bit on the narrow side. It begins with a slight flare before angling up to the cap threads and a small step up to the remainder of the barrel. This pen, like most Opus 88 pens, is a modern eyedropper. Sometimes it's called a Japanese eyedropper. When you remove the section, you can see a little stopper in there. At the end of the pen, the piston unscrews, and then you can pull it back a little bit. And it's typically not necessary to pull it back this far. Just unscrewing it a bit will do the trick. And that trick is to break the seal between the stopper and the section. You can see here on the section, it is tapered so that the stopper creates that seal between the chambers. And then on the section, there's also an O-ring to help prevent any ink seepage. Now, when you're using this pen, having the back twisted down prevents the ink from passing from the ink chamber to the section, so you're just using up the ink stored in the section. Once that runs out, you can simply untwist the piston here to break that seal, and ink will flow freely between the chambers. If you're just writing a quick note, then doing this most likely won't be necessary, but if you're having a more extended writing session, you'll Notice the ink running out, and you'll then have to crack the seal to replenish the supply. Or if you want a more consistent line of ink that won't vary, then you might want to just crack the seal while you're writing. It's up to you. I typically just crack it when I run out of ink, but then again, it does annoy me when I'm writing and the line gets lighter and lighter as the ink supply diminishes, and then it gets thicker and bolder and darker once you fill the section up with ink again. Now, I wasn't provided a box for this pen, but typically Opus 88 includes an eyedropper in the box, which is nice. I'll show you during the writing sample how to ink this pen up. The pen is long enough to use unposted. The cap does post. I wouldn't say that it's particularly secure. It doesn't take much to dislodge it from its perch, so you need to get it on there with a significant amount of intent if you want to prevent that from happening. If you do get it on there, the cap is very light, and I don't feel it backweights the pen or throws off the balance at all. The Opus 88 Harmony is available at a number of online retailers. The MSRP is $167, but I've seen it as low as $133, which is 20% off of that suggested retail price. It's a nice offering from Opus 88. I'll show you during the size comparisons, but it's a bit different than any of their other models I've tested out. A bit of a different look with the marbled resin, and the design is a little bit different for them as well. I like when a pen company produces a variety of models, as opposed to just the same thing over and over again. Thanks again. Go out to Opus 88 for providing this pen for review. I hope to see them again at the future DC shows. Now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and that writing sample. So here we have some size comparisons for the Opus 88 Harmony. Wanted to give you another closer look at this resin. Like I mentioned before, I just think it has a bit of life to it, and I like that when you turn it, you can kind of see the pearlescence kind of make itself more prevalent as you turn the pen. And every pen is going to be different in this series. But in regard to some size comparisons, this is what it looks like with an Opus 88 Coloro. And then here it is with an Opus 88 Clear Demonstrator. And then also something I recently reviewed from them, which was the last Opus 88 I reviewed, which was this Demonstrator Blue Whale, which I thought was a nice model as well. In regard to some non-Opus 88 pens, we have a Pilot Vanishing Point, we have a Lamy 2000, and then we have a Delta Dolce Vita, and this is one of the newer Dolce Vita models. In regard to some uncapped comparisons, here it is with that Lamy 2000 and the Opus 88 Coloro, as well as the Delta Dolce Vita. Now, I mentioned we'd go ahead and ink up this pen. We'll use one of my favorite brown inks, which is Mont Blanc Toffee Brown. It's a little hard to see in here with it sloshing around, but I am almost out of this ink. I'm very close to being done with it because this is one of my favorite browns. Let's go ahead and unscrew the cap. And then this is the eyedropper. It's actually a glass eyedropper that comes with each Opus 88 pen. Now, I will say that you got to be careful because if you try to use it just like this, it really doesn't work that well. There's something preventing you from squeezing it. That's because the glass extends there. And now once it extends, you can go ahead and use it. So let's go ahead and remove the section. We'll set that aside. And then carefully, we'll suck up some ink. Now, sometimes you can go ahead, if you crack the end. There we go. I was saying, if you go ahead and crack the end, then that plunger here at the bottom goes down just a little bit, and that it's not in the way when you're putting the ink in. I have a tendency just to work around it, and usually don't bother doing that. But now that we've done that, let's go ahead and affix the sections so that we don't have any incidents. and cap it for a second. And then let's take care of this. Okay, ink is safely secured. So here we have the Opus 88 Harmony. And this is a fine stainless steel nib. And the ink, as you previously saw, is Mont Blanc, Toffee Brown. This is what the ink looks like. It's a nice saturated brown. Like I mentioned before, it's one of the browns it's one of my go-to browns that I enjoy. This is Bungbox Piano Mahogany, which is a little bit more on the redder side of brown. And then here it is with SBRE brown, which is a bit on the lighter, more tan side of brown. And here we go with the rest of the writing sample. While typically I'm not a huge fan of fine or extra fine nibs, I find this one to be pleasant. You're not going to get a lot of line variation out of here, but I don't find it to be too scratchy or too rough, which I typically don't like when it comes to those types of nibs. The ink flow, I think, is decent for a fine nib. In regard to reverse writing, it is a little sharp, but then in regard to some fast writing, the feed keeps up well. So there we have the Opus 88 Harmony. I think it's an interesting offering from Opus 88 and something a little bit different compared to some of their other demonstrator models that I've reviewed previously. Okay, until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.